How's it going out there, YouTubers? Shark here with another new movie review for you. So let's go right into this review and see what it's about. I just got done watching another 1001 movies to see before you die. So this particular movie was from 1953 and it was called Summer with Monika. Now, Summer with Monika was actually a Swedish film that was produced and directed all over in Sweden and released in Sweden originally, and then got a release over here in 1955. Now, this movie is on this particular list for, I believe, the reason it is because it was the first post-era film to show nudity. Now, it wasn't like tons of graphic or lots of nudity. It was just one actual scene in the film that sequenced, a naked female. And in all honesty, I believe that this film, if that's the only reason it's on this list, that is the most stupidest reason to be put on this list for. I was honestly thinking to myself, what? I'm like, really? I'm like, come on. I'm like, this movie should be on here because of some kind of huge precedence, not because you were the first movie to show some naked girl in a film. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, really? I'm like, nah. Like, that can't be the reason. Anyway, so this movie is a romantic drama / kind of, children or younger adolescents, adults are coming to reality with life and, getting a family, having children, etc. And so in this film, this was actually directed by a gentleman named Ingmar Bergman. Now, Ingmar Bergman had a huge, illustrious career, and he actually made a lot of films. Actually, he did a lot of films with actually Max von Sydow, actually. That's really how Max von Sydow got his start. It was actually in a lot of Swedish films back in the 50s and the 40s. And Ingmar Bergman was kind of a huge collaborator with him. And this was actually one of the films that Ingmar Bergman made that was not a collaboration with him. Now, Ingmar Bergman, you might recognize such movies, or you might not, I don't know. But his most recognizable or most prominent movies, as it's come to be known, are a couple films that actually Max von Sydow was in. Now, the first one is a film called The Seventh Seal, and it's actually based off of the Book of Revelation, actually, which I found quite funny. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, it's kind of got a medieval vibe to it, kind of, a little bit of Ghost Reaper type vibe to it. And so he actually made that film, which was considered a very interesting film for its time, and probably one of Max von Sydow's best Swedish films. He also made another film that was very interesting, and it was basically the main two actresses in it were actually the main characters of the film, and it was called Persona. And that was kind of an interesting thriller, horror, a little bit of erotica type of film that for its time featured some, lesbianism in the film, which was very uncommon for the 50s or early 60s as well. And so this film was considered a big box office success over in Sweden too, because they were so supposedly far over the, what the United States was at the time, not showing nudity or having lots of profanity or having very dark subjects. And that's the reason why this Persona was so good. But those two films, I feel, are probably the two that Ingmar Bergman is most notable for, and that some people might actually know about, because they did get Criterion Collection issues for those two films. So those movie lovers out there might actually know that, or actually have seen them. This film also stars only two other actresses in the film that really make up the whole movie. It really is just about these two characters. The first one is gentleman. His name is Lars Ekberg. And Lars Ekberg didn't really have a huge career. It was a very short time frame because he ended up dying young at the age of 43 from liver cancer. But his character in the film was was quite interesting. It was, you could see the true emotion that he was putting forth in the film, and even though the acting in the film wasn't the greatest, he still did a decent job. His notable works are a couple of different films. One in particular is called The Magician, that also stars Max von Sydow. Huge collaboration with Max von Sydow, I found out. I didn't realize this until I had actually watched this movie and did a little research and found out how many different, films this Ingmar Bergman had collaborated with Max von Sydow, so found that interesting. But Lars Ekberg was in the film The Magician, and that was one of his most notable films, also a Swedish film, that he was known for. He also was in another film, or he did a voiceover work for one of Disney's greatest films from the early 60s, The Sword and the Stone. He actually provided the Swedish voice over as the character Merlin when they released it over in Sweden, which I found quite interesting. It was really awesome that I found that out, because Sword and the Stone is such an amazing cartoon animated film by Disney, probably one of their best. And that was just awesome, knowing that he actually provided the voice for the Merlin character, but the Swedish dub version. I thought that was really cool. The other person that's in the film, the actress that was the other main character, was a wonderful woman that's actually still kicking around. Her name is Harriet Anderson, and she was actually considered quite a big sex symbol back in her heyday, back in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. And oh my gosh, what a gorgeous woman, though. She really was. She was just so beautiful. And I mean, I just remember like watching her first walk onto the film and just going, oh my gosh, that woman's so gorgeous. I can see why they picked her for this role, to be this Monika and, being this kind of considered sex symbol. I mean, because she was actually such a beautiful woman for that type of era. And being Swedish herself, the Swedes, you can't go wrong. They're always gorgeous, I feel. Swedish women, they're always amazing looking. But anyways, Harriet Anderson plays the other main character, Monika, in the film. And her couple most notable works, besides, I mean, she's had a huge lengthy career over the last 50 years. And, she's even done such, movies as recent as the early 2000s. And, but that brings me to one of her first films that's pretty notable, and that is the Lars von Trier film, Dogville. Now, Dogville stars Nicole Kidman, which I did not recognize the older actress in the film until I watched this one and realized it was, Harriet Anderson. And I was like, holy crap, I was wondering if I ever saw her in anything else or if she was in anything else notable. And she was. She plays an interesting character in that Dogville film. And it was a great accompaniment to Nicole Kidman's character in the film as well. It's another period piece, which was really interesting. If you haven't seen that, definitely check that out too. It's an interesting film. It was very different. But also, Miss Harriet Anderson was also in another awesome film that was around the early 80s, and it was called Fanny and Alexander. And this is kind of a, not a scary, but a thriller slash drama slash coming of age film. And it basically encounters these two young kids that basically have to grow up in a house where it used to be fun, but then it doesn't become fun. And basically how they have to survive with their crazy mother and, having to deal with just, growing up and having no father. And that was, a very interesting film as well, I heard. I haven't seen that one, but I heard it is one of her bigger known roles for that time frame. And that it was actually considered over in Sweden very, very high profile film, and that it was like a Oscar nominated for over in the Sweden, and that she was amazing in the film. I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen it, so but I do believe that this is probably one of her most other notable roles. But Fanny Alexander, definitely check it out if you haven't seen it, so you can see if if it's all the hype that, they're talking about. Because you never know. Unless you watch it, you never know. You got to find out. Anyways, so that's the other movie that Harriet Anderson was in, besides Summer with Monika. Now, Summer of Monica, basically what the premise of the film is, it's a very similar, very, simple plot. And basically it involves these two characters. They meet each other, fall in love, and decide that they're going to go and explore after having these mundane jobs. And basically it all takes place in this one summer, and what basically leads up to, they're pretty much the rest of their life. And they end up, getting married and having a child and basically growing up. And so that's, pretty much what the premise of the film is about, them and having to deal with, love so fast, but then having to deal with reality. So it was definitely a different type of film for its era, especially in the 50s, because that wasn't considered the norm in the 50s. But at the same time, it definitely was an interesting flick to watch because of the type of issues that they were trying to really bring out and talk about, in that this is life and this is what you have to do. I don't believe this film should be on the 1001 movies list. I don't think it should have been added. It originally wasn't on the list, and it was recently added to the list on one of the new reprints, when they've added new stuff or taken out stuff that they don't feel deserve to be on the list anymore. And at first, if they hadn't added this to the list and I checked it out, I was like, okay. But I mean, its main purpose of being on the list is because of that one, main reason of it being, because it's one of the first post-era, revelations of having a naked woman in a movie. I just don't feel that it should be on this list. And like I said, the acting in it wasn't really that great. It really wasn't anything amazing. I mean, there was this fight sequence in the film where the main character, Lars Ekberg, is fighting with this other gentleman, and I mean, it's just probably one of the worst fights I've ever seen in a movie history. I mean, I think it's so fake, so not even real. It just was a huge disappointment. So I highly do not recommend this film. Definitely, I don't think it's anything of great, value. I give this one maybe 2 Golden Movie boxes up, just because of, I feel that the two actors and actresses, the director, I think that they're really amazing, talented people that had better films later on. But this one, I definitely don't think it should be on the list. See for yourself, exactly, as always, as I say, check it out for yourself. If you don't agree, that's fine. That's why this is, a review. It's my opinion of what I feel the film is. So, it's definitely something that is, worthy of at least a watch to see what it's about. But other than that, I don't think it should be on this list, and definitely not something I would add to my collection. Very, very disappointed in this film. I thought it could have been better. Definitely because with the high caliber of what I've seen the director make in other films, I feel that this is probably not his best. Definitely not the actors and actresses' best either. But definitely interesting in an interesting sense for that it's from 1953. That I will give it that. For 1953, it was very poignant for its time. Very interesting. Well, that's it for this movie review, folks. As always, thank you for watching. As always, please like, please subscribe. Please leave a comment down below. As always, please leave your comments down below and let me know if there's anything you'd like to see reviewed. Or if you have an idea for a different type of show you'd like to see, and I'd like to see about incorporating it for you guys. And as always, please keep your eyes out for any new or older videos you might not have seen mine yet. And of course, as always, catch you in the next one.